Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining this stream morning news from Moscow. Today is 16th of June. Now it's 11 o'clock, 3 minutes past 11. I'm little late today because I was updating my Telegram and Twitter X page until last minute, and I will share with you the information that I just posted there. And of course, there's so much is happening, so many news to unpack. As always, dear friends, if there will be any super chat on Rumble channel or some question through PayPal or Boosty, I will react on it. If I manage to do it during this stream, I will do it now. Otherwise, I will react during the next stream, but I'm not gonna miss out for sure. And so, yes, that's being said, let's start today's stream. And first of all, news from Middle East again, dear friends, because region is getting closer and closer to a regional war, as I was predicting for quite a while, and the veterans of our community will confirm that. We have this report from Zglad News paper that Iranian militaries conducted yet another retaliatory strike late evening last day, yesterday, and also during the nighttime, early hours of today. And the military logistical energy infrastructure of Israel was hit in areas of Tel Aviv, Haifa, Ashkelon, and a number of other directions. This is, as I said, retaliatory strikes from Iran, and that means Israel itself is also conducting attacks on Iran, targeting not just military infrastructure, but nuclear facilities again and again, and civilian facilities, by the way. One should keep that in mind. Yesterday, at one point, reports were coming in about car bombs exploding in Tehran. And well, that is definitely a tactic that terrorist organizations, terrorists are using. And we have seen such a terrorist attacks on Russian soil too, while when EU regime, for example, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky was conducting such attacks. And clearly one may argue that there is some parallels to make between actions of the Israel against Iran and actions that Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky was and is conducting against Russia. It's not just car bombs and these terrorist attacks, but also drone warfare when drones are launched from within. But that's a topic for a whole other discussion. Also, dear friends, US President Donald Trump once again spoke about this crisis, Israeli-Iran war, and I will argue that this is US NATO-Israeli war against Iran, because their NATO countries were involved in this attack from the beginning. So US President Donald Trump is once again talking about their Iran deal, but what he really means and how anyone can trust anything from Washington is hard to say, especially given the fact that Trump and his administration were involved in Israeli operation to trick Tehran into nuclear negotiations, knowing full well that Israel was planning an attack with the help of US and their other NATO member states. So therefore, we are now reaching in this world point when Western ruling class, Western elites, Western governments literally cannot be trusted. And to conduct negotiations in such situation is obviously, if not completely useless, then hardly can be perceived as a meaningful. That's for sure. But anyways, Trump is talking about some deal while US is deploying more and more its military assets into the Middle East, and clearly US is preparing to get engaged directly in attacks against Iran. I will talk about it a little late, but also we have this report from RIA Novosti that US is open to Putin's mediation in Iran issue. Yet again, US President Donald Trump said about this. And we have quote from Trump's statement that according to ABC, he said that, Trump said that he is ready. Putin called him, he called me about it. We had a long conversation about it, Trump said, on topic of Russia's potential, possible negotiation to de-escalate the situation. But yet again, anything that comes out from Washington is most likely lie. And therefore, I don't think we're going to see de-escalation in this crisis anytime soon. Unfortunately, it is highly possible that we are about to witness a further intensification of the conflict and eventually regional war. I spoke about this many times in previous updates about such risk. Although Russian president definitely was ready and is ready to basically participate in a process of de-escalation, to be active in a diplomatic field, and that's why he actually called US President Donald Trump. And this call happened yesterday. I reported about this during the yesterday's update community chat. I will just give you some basic information that Russian President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Donald Trump spoke over the phone on Saturday, day before yesterday, Saturday, discussing the attacks between Iran and Israel and the Ukraine conflict, according to the Kremlin. And presidential leader of Russia, Ushakova, give journalists some details about this conversation, but main topic was Middle East, developments in the Middle East, and Russia was offering assistance to de-escalate. And even though Trump is saying that he's kind of ready for Russia's mediation, I don't think this is true. It's exactly the opposite, most likely. And he himself, by the way, made it quite clear while saying that it is possible that US could get involved in Israel-Iran conflict. So President Donald Trump told ABC News that it is possible we could get involved in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. And you tell me, dear friends, now, when Trump is honest, if ever, when he is saying that he is ready for negotiations and to reach some agreement, deal to de-escalate, he is open for a possibility that Russian president, for example, will mediate between the sides, or when he is saying that it is possible that US will get involved directly in this war. When Trump is saying the truth, or maybe he is lying in both cases. Yet again, as I said, we reached this point, this world reached the point when nothing that comes out from leadership of the collective West countries can be trusted, period. And this is extremely dangerous point to be. That's for sure. And on the very same matter, dear friends, we have this report that I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page also, that US forward deploys dozens of aerial tankers and aimed their possible entry into Israeli-Iran war. The Military Watch magazine reports that US Air Force has made their massive deployment of KS-135 and KS-46 Strator tankers across the Atlantic, with more than 30 deployed by June 15th. So clearly, Pentagon is preparing to get involved directly. Also, reports are coming in, dear friends, that additional aircraft strike groups have been deployed now towards the Middle East. One aircraft carrier with a strike group is moving from Japan, I believe, and another one is also from the Pacific. But yet again, due to fog of war, by the way, obviously it is difficult to know exactly what is going on. But I have no doubts that this was a pre-planned. This is a pre-planned operation, and on initial stages, as I predicted, even long before Israel attacked Iran, on the first stage, it was Israeli attacks, and now only question I have is that how Israel and the collective West countries, including US, gonna play out their direct involvement in attacks on Iran. What kind of justifications, with what kind of justification they're gonna come up with? And I'm afraid, due to sentiment in US, anti-war sentiment in US, especially among Republicans, I think it is highly likely that Israeli, US secret services, potentially, with assistance of secret services of other NATO countries or the countries from the Middle East that are allies of US, may conduct false flag operations, either on US soil or on the soil of other NATO member states, or maybe against US or NATO countries' assets in the Middle East. Maybe we will see some attacks, false flag operations against naval vessels of US fleet, for example, and then that will be used as a justification to get engaged directly in a war against Iran. Obviously, they can come up with some other scenarios also. It all depends basically on scale of fantasy that these people have, right? But clearly there is military preparations in place on part of Pentagon to directly get engaged in this war against Iran. And one should also point out or pay attention to fact that Israel is already losing, by the way. Israel is already losing this war with Iran. And as time goes by, this will become more and more clear. I said basically very same day when Israel attacked, just in a few hours later, that it seems to me that Israeli attack was not as effective as some would think, right? And nowadays, more and more commentators in alternative media seems like are coming to their same page. Israel is losing. Iran is well capable to strike back, and every time Iran strikes back, these strikes are more and more powerful. And obviously, without assistance of US, other NATO member states, Israel on its own would not be able to continue this hostility with Iran for much longer. Maybe another week or two max, but it's going to be totally devastating for Israel. So I think we are only a few days away when US and other NATO member states will begin targeting Iran too. Meanwhile, I think this is very important news that TASS is reporting that Iran's parliament approved strategic partnership treaty with Russia. Chairman of their Majlis, Iranian parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, approved a treaty on a comprehensive strategic partnership between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Russian Federation to the country's president, Masoud Pezeshkian. The Iranian embassy in Moscow reported, and I guess either today or tomorrow, Iranian president will sign this treaty, and Iran and Russia will become strategical partners officially. Russian president, I believe, already signed this treaty. And what is also important is to highlight that according to Russian philosopher, public figure, Dugin, many of you are familiar with this name, of course. During the works on this treaty on a comprehensive strategic partnership, Russian side offered Iran a military alliance also in the same way that it was done with North Korea. And according to Dugin's sources, Iran refused because Tehran, certain groups, influential groups in Tehran were hoping that they will reach agreement with the West. But as we understand, this was a big mistake on part of Iranian leadership. If this information that was provided to Dugin is correct, and I have no reason to doubt this report, right? Maybe in this treaty there is some secret parts about military partnership, and if so, then I can see why Iran will fast track now adopt this treaty. Also, even though, by the way, yesterday whole day, Iranian officials were saying that they are basically still open for negotiations, still are ready to conclude an agreement guaranteeing that Iran will not have nuclear weapons. Today, just a couple of minutes ago, news broke that Tehran believes that it is pointless to hold talks now aimed on ongoing Israeli attacks. This is a statement from Iran's foreign ministry, and yet again, this statement definitely has basis under it. What kind of negotiations might take place? About what? Exactly when US is preparing attacks on Iran, when other NATO member states are preparing attacks on Iran, and when Israel is already attacking, right? And secondly, one should keep in mind that, as I already said, Iran is winning. Iran is winning this war. And as time goes by, this will become more and more clear, by the way. Don't fail to Western propaganda or to Israeli propaganda. Attacks on Iran only mildly, only loosely can be called successful. They did manage to achieve some success. They targeted number of military officials, high-ranking military officials in Iran. They targeted their scientists, by the way, which is a war crime. If military officials are combatants, one may argue, even if during attacks on them, war crimes were committed, and it is the case, by the way. In Tehran, apartment building was destroyed by Israelis to target one military person that was living in that building, and in the process, they killed 60 people, including 20 children. This is a pure war crime and cannot be justified, right? It's a war crime. They knew they're going to kill dozens and dozens of civilians, but they did it anyways. And there are a number of such cases, right, already documented. But in the West, so-called journalists, so-called experts, public figures, politicians, they're not paying attention to civilian casualties. They are justifying these attacks because, well, militaries were killed as a result of it. But what about scientists then? According to reports, more than a dozen Iranian scientists were killed, assassinated by Israelis. Is that justified in any ways? Of course not. It's a war crime, right? It's a crime. Period. Cannot be justified. But I mean, we are talking about Israel, isn't it? Fascist state with a fascist regime that has no care about civilians, and already demonstrated that while killing tens of thousands of civilians, potentially hundreds of thousands of civilians, according to Lancet magazine, by the way, Western, respected medical magazine, hundreds of thousands of civilians in the Gaza Strip with this carpet bombings and total destruction of their area. So therefore, I think Tehran has every reason to postpone any potential talks right now, and not just because they are engaged in a war and see no party on the opposite side with whom anything can be negotiated, but also because they are winning. And they know longer this conflict continues, Israeli attacks, and even with support of US and other NATO member states, gonna become less and less effective, and the Iranian attacks only gonna gain momentum and strength. because Iranian military is clearly demonstrated that they are well capable of quickly adapting to their developing situations, and they are already retaliating and retaliating hard. And by the way, at one point, if Israel and its NATO allies, if they even dream about defeating Iran, then they have to send ground troops on Iran's soil, and that's going to be a total disaster for them. Because I don't believe even for a second that NATO, entire NATO, by the way, is capable of defeating Iran. Nothing to be said about separate armies of NATO member states, like US Army. Man, US Army is a joke, literally joke, right? Yes, they can carry out some missile strikes or air strikes, but at one point, if they want to achieve success in anything, they have to send ground troops, and the U.S. don't really has a battle-capable ground troops, just simply don't. Period. But as I said, dear friends, Iran is winning, in my personal opinion, clearly winning. And this realization is settling in to Israeli leadership also. And for example, so-called defense minister of Israel, this fascist creature, Israel Katz, second time, by the way, in last several days, is threatening civilians in Tehran. Civilians, directly, by the way. These are shameless elements, and they don't hide anything. They are openly, directly threatening to kill civilians. That's Israeli style, fascist Israeli style. So Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has threatened the people of Tehran after Iran's massive retaliatory strikes on Israel's military, logistic, and energy infrastructure last night. And we have a quote here that Israel Katz wrote on his Twitter X. So the people of Tehran will have to pay their price for this, and very soon. That's his statement. Israel Katz, right? So he is threatening civilians, by the way. He is not saying that Iran's militaries will pay price, Israel's leadership will pay price. No, he is saying that residents of Tehran, people of Tehran will pay price. I mean, he is literally openly threatening to conduct mass killings of civilians in Iran's capital. And you tell me, by the way, what kind of degenerate creature one have to be to still support these fascist scams, by the way, that Israeli leadership is, despite all the crimes Israel has committed against humanity. I don't know. And when it comes to crimes committed by Israel, by the way, in this particular case against Iran, well, according to reports that I see on internet, in media, at least 224 people were killed, majority civilians. This is latest death toll as IDF strikes continue. And on your screen right now, you can see one aftermath of one of the strikes when a civilian apartment is basically collapsed. Number of wounded is up to 1,000, potentially more than 1,000 at this point. But as I said, Iran is retaliating, and Iran's retaliation retaliatory strikes, are becoming more and more effective, in my personal opinion. Let me show you, for example, some of their strikes from last night. For example, see how Iranian missiles are literally passing through interceptor missiles of Israel and still hitting their target. There is another one. according to reports on those videos, you can see destruction of the air defense battery of Israel. All sorts of speculations are circulating on the internet about this particular incident. Some are saying that Iran deployed a new tactic, as a result of which Israeli air defense systems began to target each other. I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever the case, Israeli air defense air defense battery was destroyed. There another video here, by the way. Strike and another one. On this video, you can see moment when Israeli military is launching interceptors, and sky is lit up with all those missiles and the explosions. Same time, you can see explosions here and there. So strikes are happening, and Iran is actually increasing strikes, and these strikes are becoming more and more powerful, as far as I can tell. And by the way, we are seeing strikes usually. I mean, all these videos are coming from urban area, but very rarely anybody talks about strikes that Iran is conducting on military airfields, on military facilities of Israel that are little far away from urban areas, little isolated. And yesterday I saw, for example, day before yesterday, I saw photos, satellite imagery, on which there was an Israeli air base, and every single hangar, by the way, where planes supposed to be hidden, was struck, at least either once or twice. Every single hangar, by the way. I don't know if that images are absolutely genuine, or maybe it is AI, by the way. Nowadays, we have to take every information with a pinch of salt, especially when AIs can generate quite can generate images that even experts may struggle to distinguish, are they real or not. But obviously, Iran is conducting strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of Israel. And I think once this conflict will end, we will find out how effective those strikes were. And I think those strikes are effective. Also, there was a report, dear friends, that Iran shut down, intercepted yet another Israeli drone, MQ-9 Reaper drone, close to Iraqi border. And seems like as time goes by the way, even air defense systems of Iran are beginning to operate more and more effectively. So that's also something to keep in mind. But as I said, strikes continue in a number of directions. And in Tel Aviv, by the way, as a result of a strike of Iranian missile on military infrastructure, military and logistical infrastructure, potentially on a point of concentration of Israeli militaries or their military leadership or political leadership. U.S. embassy was partially damaged there, according to reports. But yet again, we should take this information with a pinch of salt. Also, I saw some videos of light destruction on our premises of one of the buildings of U.S. diplomatic mission in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in this particular case. And as I said, by the way, we should expect a lot of false flag operations from the Israeli and U.S. Secret Services, because they need somehow to bring U.S. public on their side, right? They need somehow to justify direct involvement of U.S. and their other NATO member states into a war against Iran, right? They are already engaged, but not openly. They need to, get engaged openly. And maybe this situation with a diplomatic building is one of those false flag operations. Who knows? Who knows? I would not be surprised at all. But same time, I can see the situation when in some area of Tel Aviv, there was not just an embassy building of the U.S. diplomatic mission, but also building that was used by Israeli secret services or militaries, and that building was targeted, and nearby buildings received some damage. Also a possibility. Meanwhile, France, Russian embassy in Israel recommends that Russians leave their country. There is an opportunity to cross the border with Egypt through a 24-hour border crossing, and I think it will be a very wise decision on part of Russian citizens in Israel to flee this country and do it now. Definitely, that would be a wise decision. And everybody, by the way, I mean, it is not time to be a tourist in Israel. I know it's many holy places there, Jerusalem, by the way, and so on. But war is going on, and now it's not time to be a tourist in Israel. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, well, as I already said, dear friends, Iran intercepted Israeli drone on Iraq, close to Iraqi border. It was, according to reports, MQ-9 Reaper drone, not the first, and I think not the last one. Yesterday or day before, there was also reports about destruction of another similar type drones, and according to initial reports, one drone was Israeli and another one was a US drone. But I didn't see any official confirmation of this information. So therefore, anything that comes out now, due to fog of war, anything that comes out from the region should be taken with a pinch of salt, of course. Also, RT is reporting, and I think this information is important, that Pakistan calls for Muslim states to unite against Israel. Some people, but Pakistani defense minister, by the way, Hawaj Asif has called on the Muslim nations to unite against Israel following its strikes on Iranian military and nuclear sites. He warned that failing to act collectively would only encourage further attacks across the Middle East. He has a point there. But one may argue, well, even though Pakistan is run by militaries, these militaries are controlled by US, these militaries are engaged in a cooperation with the Israeli side. So therefore, the statement of Pakistan defense minister means nothing. But I have a different take on that. Pakistan, for many decades, by the way, is struggling to find its position. Either it's a US ally or it's a Chinese ally. And nowadays, this internal struggle in Pakistan is reaching the crossroad, basically, Rubicon, right? And I would not be surprised at all if Pakistani military leadership, Pakistani intelligence and political class will choose to side with China. And therefore, statements from Pakistan in regards to this war against Iran definitely should be taken seriously. Yesterday, during the live stream community chat, one of the members of our community asked me question if Israel would dare to use nuclear weapons, and if not, then why? And while answering this question, one of the arguments that are made there, why would Israel not use new nuclear weapons against Iran, although it could, by the way. Israeli leadership already demonstrated that they are capable of any crime, literally any crime, right? They are openly threatening civilians in Tehran, by the way, almost on a daily basis now. But one of the deterrents for Israel can be Pakistan, that also has nuclear weapons. And yet again, if we take in account that Pakistan is on a crossroad and has to make decision where it stands, with China or with US, Pakistan may actually choose China. And therefore, Islamabad can actually play a role of deterrent for Israel, potentially. But when it comes to a Muslim world, this call to towards Muslim world to get united and so on. Muslim world is divided beyond limits, really. Number of countries are engaged with the US and UK and are controlled directly, basically, almost by Western states. A number of countries have close ties, not just with the Western countries, but also with Israel, and a number of other countries are already siding with the emerging multipolar world, with China and other countries. So I don't think there's going to be some a unification of the Muslim world to stand against Israel and Israeli allies in this war against Iran. This is not happening, but because Pakistan itself most likely will ally with China, statements that are coming from Islamabad should be taken seriously. And these statements may actually deter Israel from using nuclear weapons against Iran. And even though yesterday I shared this video, dear friends, during the live stream, I think one day one part of our community is watching my videos, another day other people. So sometimes I might repeat some news. And this video is definitely that situation. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. But this is, by the way, decoys. These are the decoys that was destroyed by Israel in Iran. These are dummies of missile launchers, air defense systems, and so on. And I think because after Israeli attack, I mean, as time goes by, Iranian militaries are acting more and more strongly, including Iranian air defense systems. One may argue that during the initial attack and the next days, Israel spent quite a number of extremely expensive guided missiles destroying these decoys. Not real missile launchers and air defense systems, but decoys. And that's why work of air defenses, for example, of Israel is more and more visible. And also that's why Iran is only increasing its launches of the missiles, right? And according to reports, dear friends, Iran did not yet begun using its latest missile systems. On this first stage of this conflict, Iran is still using old missiles, according to reports that they have plenty in stockpiles, and they are saving latest missiles that are much more capable for next phases of escalation that most likely will happen, unfortunately, yet again. But as I said many times before, we are seeing a situation when Israeli leadership and the Zionists also neocons in US and globalists, or the Western ruling class in general, all of them are on the same page on topic of provoking regional war in Middle East. And they all have different reasons, but they are still on the same page. I explained my take on the situation quite a few times before. Therefore, I think we will see further escalation, and most likely we will see not just direct involvement of US and other NATO member states, but also Israeli secret services, US secret services, British secret services will try to provoke war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, between Iran and the UAE, between Iran and Qatar and Bahrain and other regional countries, because that's the way they can provoke regional war full-scale regional war, and that's the way globalists or the Western ruling class can really shut down navigation for a long period of time in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And that's their goal, by the way. Israel might have different goals. Israel just wants to destroy literally everybody around it, either control or destroy, right? That's the only way they can dominate in the region. But U.S. neocons and Western ruling class and globalists, they have different agenda. They don't care about Iran or Israel. What they care is to somehow harm China. And that's why they want regional war to be provoked, navigation to be shut down in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, so that China would not be able to receive energy from this region, which is definitely going to be a colossal hit on Chinese economy. Not a fatal hit, but colossal hit on Chinese economy and also on the world's economy, for sure. But Western ruling class is, as far as I can tell, Western ruling class in their sick mind is fighting for their survival. They are fighting to maintain their dominance in this world, and they are not capable of compromising. So they will most likely try to go all the way. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.